That big house I want, it's mine. I already have it. It belongs to me. That thing happened to me because my energy was attracting that. Law of attraction. Not everyone is aligned with law of attraction, and not everyone is opposed to the idea of law of attraction. And maybe there's somewhere in the middle where some other folks sit when it comes to the belief system, the idea of law of attraction. In this episode, I am responding to another podcast episode on another podcast by Hannah McIntyre on Mediumship Matters, where she talks about law of attraction and her journey with the belief. So could you manifest yourself listening to this episode? Thanks. My name is Juan Francisco, and I'm a psychic medium and tarot card reader. I've always been curious about the supernatural, the paranormal, and psychic abilities, and I'm here to share my stories and interview folks who want to share their own stories with us. Let's get to it. So inspiring this episode of Third Eyesight is an episode I heard on another podcast. As you might know, I love and adore the podcast Mediumship Matters by Hannah McIntyre. And I was over the moon because she said she was going to come back with her next season of her podcast in September. But she came back last week. And this guy, when I saw a new episode of Mediumship Matters, I was so excited to listen to it. I was like, Hannah didn't keep her promise, and I am here for it. And she even talks about how she's been feeling very inspired to do new podcast episodes. And I know exactly how that feels. And I think it's good to have that time management and to give yourself a break. But if you're feeling it, especially because there's so much creativity that goes into having a podcast and into speaking and expressing your feelings about a topic, there's communication involved, and I think there's an art to communication. There's creativity to running a podcast, and I think I totally understand where she comes from. Anyways, I digress. I'm so happy that Hannah is back earlier than we expected as Mediumship Matters listeners. And I wanted to respond to her episode because I was listening to it and I was like, yes. And I think it's an important topic I have not hit on in this podcast on Third Eyesight. And it's on the law of attraction. Now, the name of her episode is called Bore of Attraction, B-O-R-E, Bore of Attraction. And I wasn't quite sure what that meant when I saw the title before I listened to the episode. Then as I was listening to it, I was hearing things I've heard Hannah share before in bits and pieces about the law of attraction and her thoughts on it. And I was pleased to hear a deeper dive into that because I don't know if she's done an episode just on the law of attraction. Maybe she has. Maybe on manifestation. Maybe on, I'm not sure. I can't remember. There's so many episodes, and I've listened to every one of them. I'm not embarrassed. I just don't want to seem kooky. But I'm kooky for episodes, for podcasts, rather. I'm kooky and crazy for podcasts that I really like. And Hannah's is not an exception. So, anyways, I think I had too much caffeine today. Anywho, in this episode, Hannah goes into her thoughts on law of attraction. Now, for those of you who, if you're not very familiar with what the law of attraction is, in a nutshell, it's this belief, this field of thought that what comes to you because you attracted it. So what you attract to yourself, the energy that you put out there is what you attract back to yourself. For example, if you want to make a lot of money next year, already think that you're rich. Or if you want to get a new house, I was going to say pretend. That's not the right word, but imagine yourself in that house already. Tell yourself that house belongs to you. The house in your mind, that house belongs to you. The house that you want, it's already yours. It's just going to come in the time that it's going to come. That's my understanding of law of attraction. There's also some some areas of law of attraction that will say some facets of it that will say if you are with somebody in a relationship, for example, who is really boring, let's say, well, there's a part of you that attracted a boring person. There's a part of you, and not attract in terms of a romantic sense. Attract as in your energy attracted a boring person. Or if you have a friend who is a really great friend and they're the kind of friend you wish you always wanted, well, you attracted that energy to you because you put the energy out there for a friend like that. So law of attraction, yeah, what you attract into your life is a result of what you put out, the energy you put out in your life. And so Hannah was sharing that she has had, based on my understanding of her episode and what I was hearing her say, that she struggles with the idea of law of attraction because she tells a story about, and of course I'm going to link to this episode on Mediumship Matters, but I'm just going to give you, as I build up to my thoughts on law of attraction, I want to just summarize what Hannah talked about without giving too much away. She shares a story about how, in a nutshell, somebody told her that her business is not going the way she wants it to because her energy is misaligned. And she's, in Hannah's words, she took offense by that because there's so many other factors like social media algorithms. Right now there are so many people who are putting themselves out there as psychic mediums. There's a lot of, I hate to use this word, competition for attention. And it's not that, and I think Hannah would agree with me on this, it's not that we're trying to compete with each other on who's the best medium. It's just we're trying to put our own businesses out there. And it's not easy because there's a saturation, and for some may think an oversaturation of psychic mediums on public platforms. So she took offense by this person saying, you're misaligned in your energy, which is why your business, that's why your business is not going the way you want it to. So this brings me to my thoughts on law of attraction. I will first say that I do believe, to an extent, that the energy I put out myself is the energy I'll get in return. If I'm somebody who, and I can speak from personal experience, I have lived this experience. I used to be somebody who was very cynical about people and certain types of people. As a gay man, I was very cynical about gay men, and gay men do this, and all gay men think this, and gay men. It was pretty unhelpful. And what kinds of experiences did I attract or put myself in because of that cynicism? Experiences that were going to further confirm my cynicism. Because what I put out there as an expectation of other people, if that's all I expected from a certain group of people, namely gay men, and this has a lot to do with my own identity as a gay man. I had to work through this because I just want to disclaim that blanket statements about groups of people are not okay. As a gay man, saying things about other gay men, there was something about myself that I was not looking at, and that's why I would think this way. Anyways, that's what I was saying. If I had this expectation regarding gay men, and it was so strict because I was very strict about it, I believed these things wholeheartedly, then all I was going to be on the lookout for out there in the world were gay men, people who confirmed my beliefs. That's where I take responsibility. That's where I see there is opportunity to take responsibility for my own life experience. Because if I walk around thinking all men are blank, all women are blank, everyone who has a child is blank, I see the world through that lens. And anything outside of that lens that wants to disprove my beliefs, I don't pay attention to because I'm so set in my ways and my beliefs. For me, that's the extent to which I believe in law of attraction. My mindset determines so much what my worldview is and what my life it is the lens through which I experience my life and the people in my life, or strangers who come into my life, strangers I see on the street. It's like, for example, this is a pretty silly, but I think a good example. If you're taught, let's say you were taught as a child, you don't step on a crack in the sidewalk. Step on a crack, you break your mother's back. It is bad luck to step on a crack in the sidewalk. You should not do it. And in your 20s and your 30s, you walk on the sidewalk and you just subconsciously walk over the cracks. You don't want to walk on the cracks. Now, I think most people would agree with me, maybe, that it's nonsense to believe that stepping on a crack in the sidewalk is bad luck. Doesn't make any sense. There's no logic behind it. That's my personal belief. But because we were taught to not step on the crack on the sidewalk because it could cause harm to somebody, let's say, or bad luck to somebody or to yourself, we don't step on the crack on the sidewalk. What a different lens through which to view cracks in the sidewalk. To me, a crack in the sidewalk, I'm expecting to see some weeds growing through, the earth trying to assert itself through human-made concrete. Like, so many ways to view a crack in a sidewalk, not just as bad luck. Walking under ladders, seeing a black cat. I've heard, I don't know the statistics on this, that black cats are often the least adopted amongst cats because people see them as bad luck. They see superstition. And the reality is, so many black cats need to be adopted, right? So because people are viewing black cats through this lens, this belief, they see cats as bad luck and therefore don't want to adopt them. And someone could really want a cat in their life. Maybe they really want to adopt a cat, but no black cats. And then maybe they have a hard time finding a cat to adopt. I don't know. I'm just making that up. But I'm going down a rabbit hole of examples. But what I'm trying to say is the way we think about ourselves and other people and the world around us, I mean, maybe you could astral travel to other worlds. The worlds, or this world of planet Earth that we live on, the way we see these things, I think can so influence how we experience them, the way we define things in our lives. My last example, people think the color pink is a girly color. Some people, not all people. Some people think the color blue is more a boy color. Some people think the color white means purity, whereas in some Asian countries, the color white is the color of death. It's the color of roses at funerals. Not here, not in the United States. So our worldviews really do determine how we experience life. And when it comes to our spiritual energy, the way that we want to define ourselves and other people and other things in our lives can so determine the energy we get back from those things. I do believe that. Here comes the unpopular, very unpopular opinion I'm going to share that I have about law of attraction. Why do I feel nervous? I don't know. I used to listen to Abraham Hicks, and I do admire Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks, and I forgot her husband's name. I admire all of that because I've listened to many of those recordings, and a lot of them helped me get through things or think through things. And yet I don't look at those as the word with a capital W. I don't look at those recordings as the way to live my life because, and here's the unpopular opinion about law of attraction. I think that for some people, law of attraction is used as a way to blame something else or ourselves for the problems we face. Bear with me. I believe that sometimes really crappy things just happen. They just happen. We don't call them into our lives. We don't ask for them. I believe there are people who have the best of intentions with their souls with the lives that they lead, who have the best of intentions and the best energy they put out there, and something crappy can still happen to them. So do we say, well, you seem like you have your life together. You seem like you are in a good headspace. You seem like you have the right intention, but something about you called this tragedy to you. How victim blamey is that? I think that sounds like blaming a victim. Now, I'm not in someone's heart and soul. I'm not in their mind to know exactly what their inner journey is. Maybe there's something about them that did attract something negative. But I really do believe that sometimes bad things, quote unquote, the word bad can mean something different to everybody. Tragic things, disappointments just happen. They just happen. And I think that because so many of us struggle with the why the bad things happen, we want to look for a way to get closure about it. So then we say, I blame myself. I'm the reason the bad thing happened. Or we want to blame other people. He's the reason. She's the reason. The immigrant is the reason. The conservative, the liberal, what we make our boogeymen. We want to blame other people for a problem, or we want to blame ourselves for a problem. Or we want to blame God. And so if I really sit in this energy, like if I pretend to sit in the energy of if I were somebody who wanted to blame somebody or something for a bad thing or a negative thing in my life, if I don't want to blame myself because I think that I did everything that I could and that I'm at no fault, maybe I'll blame God. God, how could you do this to me? If I feel like I shouldn't blame God because it is wrong to blame God, I may blame a group of people or a government or a friend or a parent. And if I don't feel comfortable blaming neither God nor a person or a group of people or an institution, then what's left is, I'll blame myself because I brought this to myself. Now, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be held accountable for how they hurt us or how they oppress us, because there is rightful blame and accountability. There are awful things happening in this world. There are awful things that have happened in this world. And I believe that it is only right and just, and it serves our soul journey as a human collective to hold accountability for ourselves, to take responsibility, to hold people accountable, and to take responsibility for our actions and ourselves when we do harm to people. That's important. But then when we get down to the question of, it's one thing to ask, why did this person do that? Or that person should not do that because it's harming somebody. There's a difference between that question and that discussion and why is this happening to me? And I think some people will use law of attraction. They'll use religion to either place the blame on themselves, because that may be easy to some people, or place the blame on God, or place the blame on the devil, place the blame on evil spirits. And I think that it is unnecessary for us to be so hard on ourselves. And it's unnecessary to find something to blame for a problem in our life. Again, if a problem in our life is caused by somebody who's doing us wrong, we should speak our truth and tell them, you can't do that to me, or you can't do that to me again. That's not happening. I draw the line here. But sometimes things in our lives just happen out of nowhere. They just happen out of nowhere. I think about how my father lost his brother. His brother was in his early 20s or mid-20s, died in a car accident. Are we going to say that somebody called that forth? if somebody is abused by somebody, did they call that energy into their life to be abused? Now, do I believe that everything in our lives we can use to help our souls grow and evolve? Yes, I do believe we can use all experiences, good, bad, ugly, use them, harness those experiences to help our souls evolve and grow, to learn more about ourselves. But I don't believe that we call negative things to us all the time. Again, I was saying before that, and this feels like my head is exploding because this is so existential to me right now. And I love talking existential stuff, but I'm like, whoa, because look, I'm human. Even I wonder, why do certain people have to die in war? I don't know the answer to that. Well, the answer is there are people doing the harming, and that's other people. But if I want to get really existential, but why are those people doing the harming? Well, then who do I blame? Outside of those people, I'm blaming those people. Do I want to blame God? Do I want to blame the devil? And I know that I can blame God, but I don't want to blame God because I know that God put us on this earth to make free will choices. And we do with that free will what we will, literally will. So where do I go next with this train of thought? Because these are huge. These are questions that humans have wondered about forever and ever. And I think some religions, I'll reframe it this way. Some people use religion as a way to cope with these questions. Why do bad things happen? Why do bad things happen? There must be a reason bad things happen. It's because there's a devil who makes them happen. There was a devil who betrayed God in the Garden of Eden, or at the beginning of the world, beginning of the universe, who became a snake in the Garden of Eden, and now he is a devil, and the devil, and that's why bad things happen. People use some spiritual concepts as a way to cope with the question of why have these bad things happened. And I'm here to say that I believe that, and my mind can change. My belief system can change in 10, 20 years. I don't know. But as of today, I know that sometimes bad things just happen and there is no explanation for it, no human explanation for it. And the best that I feel like I can do if a bad thing happens to me or something tragic happens to me, God forbid, is I owe it to myself to heal through that tragedy and to see, give myself time to grieve or to go through it and then keep going and seeing how I can harness the experience of that tragedy towards being a better person or helping my soul to grow. And that's easier said than done. And this is where I want to say, at a moment when somebody is grieving a disappointment, whether it be something small to us or something that seems like a total tragedy, who are we to preach that, oh, you brought that to yourself because your energy was misaligned? I don't care if it was a disappointment because you didn't get the job that you wanted. It was a disappointment because you got fired or laid off. It was a disappointment or a huge loss because somebody passed unexpectedly. How could we victim blame? To me, it's victim blaming. And there's no reason for that. It just makes people feel shittier. And this is how I want to kind of put a bow on my thoughts here. We are in control of what we can control, and that includes our own energy. Everyone else's energy, other situations, things outside of us, we cannot really control. And that is where I think peace and bliss comes from. Inner peace comes from accepting. There's a lot of acceptance here. Accepting that I can only control what I can control. I love the serenity prayer for that reason. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, like tragedies, disappointments that happen to us. The courage to change the things I can, like how I respond to that thing that I'm disappointed about. And the wisdom to know the difference. Help me to know the difference between what I can control and cannot control. And with law of attraction, as Hannah was saying in her podcast episode, when that person told her she was misaligned energetically and that's why her business wasn't doing well. I mean, could that be true of an entrepreneur? Sure, it could be true, but it totally ignores other facets of running a business. Social media, it's very tough to be noticed on social media. The difference between now when with my Instagram and 2-3 years ago, it's exponentially different. It's so vastly different how the algorithm works. And I've been noticing it. So, and here's an interesting thought. Actually, Hannah introduced this idea, this example of like law of attraction and the algorithm. The algorithm on social media, the more you like certain types of content or go to view a profile after seeing a piece of content that's promoted to you, you're going to attract more of that content to you. So law of attraction kind of is supposed to work the same way. But then when it comes to running a business, the hard part is getting onto people's social media feeds so that people can like it, go to your profile and see more of you. It's really hard. It's hard to get yourself out there now. So when it comes to business and being misaligned, do I think that if you're not in the right headspace, energy space to run a business, that the business is going to reflect that? Absolutely. But when you know that you've done everything you can, that you're doing everything you can, you're trying to do all the right things and you have the right intention and things just don't go your way, it's okay to say things just suck right now. And it's hard. Period. We don't have to blame ourselves. We could blame a social media platform. We could. Period. You can. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Because sometimes the facts of life are the facts of life. And sometimes things just don't go in our favor. I remember when, I don't even want to say his name because it's just icky to me, but I don't want to give him, I mean, not that anyone listens to his team listens to my podcast, but there was a certain hip hop rapper who said that the enslaved black people could have ended their own slavery, could have ended their own enslavement. And I remember there was a comment he made about that years ago. And it's like, when we talk about oppression, there seems to be this small group of people in the culture right now that says they're very tired of people talking about oppression and white supremacist culture. And I think it's very easy with people when it comes, no, I shouldn't say people, but when it comes to law of attraction, to use law of attraction to say, well, white supremacist culture, like systemic racism, it's not a thing if you don't give it energy. Well, I'm sorry, babe, but systemic racism is there whether you give it energy or not. It's there because there are people in power who are making sure things stay the way they are. That communities are redlined. If you don't know what redlining is, look it up. Segregation in the United States, apartheid across the world. Are we here to tell a community of people you brought that onto yourselves? Is that how we're going to use law of attraction? Instead of holding humans accountable? And again, if we want to go beyond the human accountability and ask the big question of, but why? But why do these things happen? I don't have a good answer for that other than humans have free will choice, fortunately, unfortunately. And there are some people who have really malicious intent or want to feel superior to other people or want to harm people. And that's the only explanation I have. And that doesn't mean we have to blame ourselves for being on the other end of that malicious intent. Doesn't mean we have to, if you want to blame God, you have a right to, but it doesn't mean that we have to blame a higher power. Everyone's journey is so different. And for me to tell somebody to blame themselves because of their own energy misalignment, or for me to tell somebody you should blame God or you should stop believing in God, Cicela feels my fervor and she's scratching her bed. She's making her bed and now she's coming over here. For me to tell somebody blame God, blame yourself, that's not my business, because that, when it comes to those bigger questions, that is such a huge part of your inner journey with yourself and your soul. And it's nobody else's business, in my opinion, to tell you, well, you're misaligned. Oh, you experienced that racist comment yesterday? Well, what about you is misaligned to have made that happen? Or, someone shouted out at you on the street yesterday. Well, what were you doing what were you energetically doing that day? Sometimes people just do things. Sometimes things just happen. And I think that's what we need to come to accept. That's my opinion. Just my opinion. It just happens. Things just happen. And I think that because we feel uncomfortable with just accepting that things just happen, we want to go to law of attraction or to a victim blaming. We want to blame something, and instead of just saying things just happen. I'm wondering if people are going to be really fired up by this episode, because, a lot of people, and I again, to an extent, I believe in law of attraction. I do, to an extent. But to me, there is a limit. I think when it comes to what I can control, what I really know that I can control around me and within myself, and then how I control those things or how I handle those things, how they play out as a result, that's where I do believe in law of attraction. But when it comes to just random life events or disappointments, I think some things are just part of our soul's journey. And some things, even though I do believe that, there are some things that happen in this world where I'm like, but is it really their soul's journey? How can that happen? How can something so tragic happen to somebody? How? And I don't have an answer for that. And I am comfortable telling you that I don't have an answer for that, because I'm not God. I'm only human. And I can be just as mad as you are about why certain things happen to certain people. And I think that blaming those people because of their energy misalignment is not the right way to go. So, Hannah, if you're listening to this is what you inspired. I was really inspired by your episode, and I highly recommend that everyone goes listen to the episode, because Hannah has this really magical way of making these big concepts so accessible, and she's so down to earth. And there's a reason I love her podcast, because that's what I aim to do on my podcast, is be down to earth. And I've learned that from the best, and that's Hannah McIntyre on Mediumship Matters. And so I just want to say, the last thing I'm going to say is, don't let anyone make you feel bad for something that happens in your life. It's okay to just be mad. It's okay. Don't let it consume you. Don't let it become your identity. Don't make anger your identity, if I may suggest that, recommend it. But don't let anyone make you feel bad because something has come into your life that is a disappointment, like getting laid off, getting fired, which is happening a lot these days, layoffs at companies. It's okay to be mad, and don't be hard on yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Thanks for indulging me in this podcast to podcast reaction video / audio podcast. And I will see you on the next episode of Third Eyesight. Ciao. If you have a question or topic you want me to cover on Third Eyesight, head to my website, juanfranciscospirit.com/contact, and send a message my way. If you really enjoyed this episode, leave a review wherever you listen. I'd really appreciate it.